All right, let's dive into one of the most famous and maybe most misunderstood poems of all time, Robert Frost's The Road Not Taken. We think of it as this great anthem for making bold, unique choices. But what if I told you that we've kind of been reading it all wrong? Let's take a closer look. You know these lines. We've all seen them, right? They're on coffee mugs, graduation cards, motivational posters, you name it. They've become this powerful symbol for individualism, for, blazing your own trail. It's the ultimate story of a heroic choice that changes everything. Is it possible there's something else going on here? Something a little sneakier, a little more human, hiding right there in the words. To figure that out, we have to ignore the posters and just look at what Frost actually wrote. So first, let's talk about the poem we all think we know, the one that lives in our heads. It feels so straightforward, right? So inspiring. But what if that popular version is built almost entirely on those last two lines, completely plucked out of their context? And look, on a basic level, that's absolutely true. The poem is definitely about choices and how they shape our lives. Nobody's arguing with that. The real question is, what kind of choice is actually being made here? And more importantly, what is Frost saying about how we talk about those choices afterwards? So let's rewind and go right to the very beginning of the poem. Frost paints a super clear picture for us. We've got one person standing alone in the woods, and they've got a decision to make. So right off the bat, stanza 1. The speaker is at a fork in the road. And what does he do? He doesn't just confidently pick one. No, long I stood. He hesitates. He stands there for a while, trying to see where one road goes, but he can't. The view is totally blocked. This isn't a story about a bold, quick decision. It's a moment of pure uncertainty. So let's break down this setup. He's in a yellow wood, so it's probably autumn, a season all about transition and change. He has to choose. He can't take both paths, but he has zero information about where either one will take him. I mean, that's the classic human condition, right? Making these huge decisions completely blind. All right, now we get to the juicy part. This is where that popular idea of a brave, nonconformist choice really starts to crumble. Because if this was really about taking the hard road, you'd think the two paths would look wildly different. But that is not what Frost tells us. Not at all. So he looks at the second road and says it's just as fair. Basically, it looks just as good as the first one. Then he says it has, perhaps, the better claim. Did you catch that? Perhaps. He's not even sure. His only reason is that it looked grassy and wanted wear. Now, on the surface, this seems to back up the whole less traveled thing. Worn to wear, it hadn't been used. So case closed, right? He took the road less traveled. Well, hang on, because Frost pulls the rug out from under us in the very next lines. And there it is, the big twist. He literally says that, actually, the paths had worn them really about the same. And to make it even clearer, he adds that both that morning equally lay in fresh leaves. Nobody had walked on either path yet that day. The difference he thought he saw, it was basically in his head. I mean, when you put it side by side like this, it's just so clear. The popular idea is all about that one famous line, but the poem itself says not once, but twice, that the roads were pretty much identical. The great, significant difference he talks about at the end, it just wasn't there when he made the choice. So if the choice was basically a coin toss between two identical options, what in the world is that legendary final stanza all about? Well, this is where the poem stops being about a walk in the woods and starts being about something much deeper: storytelling. Now, you gotta look at the grammar here. It's everything. He doesn't say, I told this story. He says, I shall be telling this. It's future tense. He is imagining a future performance. He's picturing himself years down the line, telling this story, and he'll tell it with a sigh, which is so wonderfully vague. Is it a sigh of relief? Regret? Who knows? And just to be crystal clear, hence means from now or in the future. So yeah, this entire famous ending is a prediction. It's a story he's planning to tell about this moment to make it feel important. This changes the whole poem. The ending isn't a factual report of what happened. It's him workshopping the story he's going to tell about his life. He knows that someday he'll claim he took the road less traveled because, let's be honest, it just makes for a much better, more interesting story. So let's put it all together. What is the difference he's talking about? If it wasn't the road itself, because we know they were the same, then what actually made all the difference? So here's the real takeaway. The traveler had two roads that were almost exactly the same. The choice he made wasn't some grand heroic act. It was pretty random. But he knows that in the future, he's going to frame that choice as this huge, life-defining moment. So the difference isn't the path he chose. It's the story he chose to tell about it. And that right there is the genius of this poem. It's not really a cheer for being a maverick. It's a much smarter, funnier look at how we build our own myths. It's about that deep, fundamental human need to look back at our random, messy lives and create a story that makes it all feel meaningful and intentional. So it kind of leaves us with a question for our own lives, doesn't it? When you look back at the big forks in your own road, do you remember the uncertainty? How it could have gone either way? Or do you find yourself telling the story of how you bravely took the one less traveled by? Because this poem suggests that telling that story might just be part of what makes us human.